Hello, you guys.
Hi, you guys.
Welcome to the Woman's Cave.
Yes, welcome to the Women's Cave. I was going to put that at the end, but this is our little disclaimer that we have to put. Well, not disclaimer. It's more like we had technical difficulties doing the writing roundtable, but it was such good fun and such
amazing information
that, yes, the mineral quality isn't all that great, but just listen to the words. I mean, we figure it out about 7 to 8 minutes in. So, I mean, if you want to fast forward to that, that's fine, but you'll miss all the inside jokes by then.
Yeah, definitely.
Just saying. So, this is us welcoming you to the Women's Cave.
Enjoy.
For me. And one of the things that they keep talking about is all of the self-promotion that you need to do when you self-publish.
Yeah.
And they talk about creating lists and doing blogs. And some of that stuff far exceeds my interest. And so I don't know what those are.
Oh, we'll definitely talk about that in just about 2 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Hello, you guys, and welcome to the Women's Cave. Mobile, though, because
wait. I should be saying cave, because it's a whole lot bigger than the studio.
It is much bigger than the studio. This is why we look so, like, not focused, but we have no more lights. So we're doing what we can in the hotel room. Let's get that, like, yay, high five for us.
Wait, I still look cute on camera. Are you joking?
Oh, I know. You always look cute, right? Says the narcissist.
Yes.
Oh, but I'm Jade, by the way.
Oh, and I don't know that. And we remember to introduce ourselves. Fist bump. Because I'm not old. Anyway, you guys.
My goodness.
I should probably go with the fact that we have a ton of people here today.
We do have a ton of people here, but first and foremost, let's talk about, we were in London on television. Right. That's exciting.
So you guys can catch that on like YouTube. Or if you look at our like Facebook page, oh yeah, that sounds real old. You can see the preview. It's so compelling. So the BBC producer said.
She was like, it's compelling.
Anyway, introduce us.
Yeah, we're part of the... Really?
Yeah.
Feeling like I don't do this all the time. Maybe it's because you're sitting on my side. You think of me.
Oh, that might be it.
Right. Anyway, we are the And I Thought ladies, and we were the And I Thought series. And I thought divorce was bad. Oh, wait, with 11 other wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous ladies. And I thought divorce was bad with other life lessons. And I thought being grown up was easy. And I thought I could juggle it all. And I thought I did my journey alone, which we do not have. Okay. And I thought... See, now I like lost it. I had it all figured out.
Hey, Hollywood, by the way.
I didn't even finish it. Okay, just go. Just go.
Hey, Hollywood, by the way, you see this adorable face? It wrote this adorable script. So all you have to do, turn pages, make actors read it, and I want to be more famous. More famous than I am with my own television show. Just saying.
Okay. So now we're back from that. You can find all of this on Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com, or AndWeThought.com. But if you go by our website, you guys, please take a moment and hit the ladies page, go down to the bottom and see those charities that we proudly support. And also, you guys, please vote for Marilyn Hawes. She's amazing.
She is up for
an
international award. So please.
Very nice.
Vote for her. And also, just one more narcissistic point before we move on to real people, okay? We have our own television show, just in case I hadn't said it enough. We have our own television show. It's called Just Right in Life, and you can find that also on AndWeThought.com, Amazon.com, and I believe Friday nights at 8 o'clock on Channel 18.
Start with episode 2. It's the better one.
All right.
Just saying.
Guests?
Oh, yes, and now we have wonderful guests. We have so many guests in the Women's Cave. That's why we have to have a bigger room.
Yeah.
Right? All right. And so, wonderful guests, would you start to introduce yourself?
If I'm up?
Yep, you're up.
All right. I am Brandy M. Miller with 40daywriter.com, and I write just about everything, a little bit of everything. So,
Brandy, sweetie, you missed your best point. She's the executive producer of...
Yes, the 40-Day Writer reality TV show, which, hasn't come out yet, but we are still working on it.
Okay. Christine?
Hi, I'm Christine Merrill. I write mostly historical romance, but the girls are a fan of Tourist of Zenda. Most recently, I've got Master of Penloan, which is a gothic, and Convenient Bride for the Soldier coming out next week.
Wait, what was the one before Convenient Bride of the Soldier?
Master of Penloan. It's a gothic novella.
Ah, cool.
So the old-fashioned ghosts in a haunted house thing.
Cool. I'm really looking forward to reading some of your historical fiction as well. By the way, you guys, she is a best-selling author.
But she didn't even say.
Which she didn't say. New York Times, by the way, right?
No.
No,
But if you want to make me a New York Times after this show, I'm sure that'll be the kicker here.
Oh, and then we have our favorite reporter.
Hi, I'm Jan Booth, and I am a journalist rather than writing fiction, and I write for publications, including this one, which is an agricultural weekly called Lancaster Farming, and one you may be more familiar with, What's Up Annapolis, in which I have occasional articles.
One of my favorite magazines, by the way.
I mean,
it's always so pretty.
It's always so pretty.
Okay, and lastly, we have someone to make us feel very especially intellectual, but I can't say like the full title. So Mike, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, I hope I don't have to try to make you feel intellectual. I'm only 2 cups of coffee into the day.
Oh, dang.
My name is Mike Nelson. I've practiced as a family physician for 38 years. And I recently discovered a diary that my father kept during his time during World War II, where he was a tail gunner and flew 27 missions as an 18-year-old boy. And he never talked about it, never said anything about it, wouldn't talk about it. And then we discovered it after his death. And I realized that I didn't want to do that to my children either. And I am a Vietnam War veteran, decorated, and came home to a country that didn't like any of us at the time. And so I started writing my story and realized that if I fictionalized it, it might help a lot of people with PTSD and what's going on in Iraq right now. So I have 2 books that I have finished, but have not published either one. One is in final edit, and the other one is in beta read. The first is a story of Vietnam and the returns, and the second is a anthology of short stories about rural practice in northern Wisconsin with the Amish, which are all true stories of my practice times. And so I'm still struggling with deciding how to do those, whether to publish them as individual short stories or as just a compendium of all of those stories.
Wow.
So that's where
Mike is in one of the stages that I think everyone who wanted to click on this link beforehand or had sent in questions beforehand was talking about how do I get back on the market? What are my best options, sort of things. So thank you guys for introducing yourselves. And I was gonna go, I promised Ms. Booth, I was gonna go with the 3 questions. And then I got up this morning with only 2 hours of sleep and was like, screw it. I'm so sorry. But if you guys quickly want to tell us like how you got started and what do you think is the most important part about getting into writing, the most difficult, challenging part? Anybody can take this.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead.
You answer first. No, go for it. I just want.
I got started writing books because of NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month. And the challenge was to finish a full book or a 50,000 word book in 30 days. So the whole month of November, including with Thanksgiving and everything, you're writing a book. And I discovered I could. And I think that's a really big key, is to prove to yourself that you can do it. Because once you've done it once, it makes it much easier to do it again because you know the process. And so I started doing that, and I wrote like 6 of those, but I never published them. I shoved them in a desk drawer, and they still collect dust. But that led me to, when I was working on building my business in 2011, we were struggling to find clients, and I was looking for a way to attract them to our business. And I came across this course called Getting Rich with eBooks. And I didn't, by the way, get rich with eBooks. I'm still not rich yet.
Are any of us?
But I'm working on it. And
the doctor, of course.
Anyway, so I took the course, and part of what it taught me was to look for Google searches to figure out what topic might be of interest to people. And I discovered that there were a whole lot of searches every single month for how to write a book. And I was like, well, I can't teach you how to publish it. I can't teach you how to market it, but I can teach you how to write it. And so that's what led me to publish my first book. Was I sat down over a weekend at the kitchen table and wrote how to write a book in 40 days or less. I don't recommend releasing a book that you write over the kitchen table in a weekend, but I did. And actually it got surprisingly good reviews. And that book led me to start up a writers group, and starting up the writers group led me to figuring out what other writers needed. And so I ended up writing 2 more books that following year. One was creating a character backstory, and the other was how to find the right time, how to find all the time you need to write a book. So yeah, and that was kind of the start of my publishing. And the right time was where I learned to self-publish. That was the first book I self-published. It took me about 8 weeks to figure out the process. And of course, over the years, I've kind of refined it, and my books look better and better on the inside. And that's been my journey. So.
I'm so sorry. I said I wasn't going to ask people, but Christine, I know you have a different story because you got picked up by an actual publisher, unlike us who was waiting on a publisher to show up.
Yeah, originally I started writing because we were living in the country and my kids were small, and I thought, it would be a really easy job. I could write romance novels because I wouldn't have to put on socks, I wouldn't have to leave the house, I wouldn't have to get a babysitter. Actually, it's not easy, and it took me, I think it was about 1998, I decided I'm going to write a book, and I sold my first one in 2005. But the point where I decided I was going to be a writer was the point where I started writing regularly, a few pages a day, 10 pages a day, 1,000 words a day, with the goal of having finished manuscripts. And eventually I found RWA, which is the Romance Writers of America, and they have a contest for unpublished authors with a complete manuscript. So every year I would enter this, and every year I would get knocked down. But the more times I entered, the more complete manuscripts I had, and the more experience I had putting the book together, and the more classes I'd taken. And by 2005, I had this finished book that everyone told me wouldn't sell because no one was buying historical romances at that point. And I won the contest, and it was judged by an editor, and she bought it. And after that, she said, "What else do you have?" And I wrote another one over the course of a year, and I took 2 weeks off of work because I couldn't get it done. And I said to my boss, I'll get this finished quick. It's going to take them weeks. The last book took years. It's going to take at least 6 weeks before they even look at it. I promise I won't ask for anything else. And within 3 days, she'd read it. She liked it. She offered me a 3-book contract. And when they wouldn't let me go half-time, I said, well, I guess this is 2 weeks' notice. And which is a really stupid thing to do. Don't do that, because everyone will say, don't quit your day job because writing is dangerous. But as Brandy said, a lot of it's about consistency. It's about knowing you can do it. It's about getting up in the morning, and you wake up in the morning and you can't really believe how it happened. You have to talk yourself into it, jumping off that cliff every single book. Now I think I've got 20 finished novels, plus short stories, plus novellas. I'm traditionally published. I've got indie self-published work. I'm working on one of each right now. So yeah, it's an exciting time to be a writer. There are a lot of different ways to go about it, but the first step is being consistent and treating it like a job.
Awesome. Okay. I was also going to ask Miss Booth. You started off as a journalist.
Yeah. Yes, I did. Well, actually, I started off as an English teacher for 30 years. And in the course of that, spent a lot of time helping young people learn how to write. So when I retired, I said, now I'm going to have fun and just do it myself. So I started in 2000 when I started as a journalist, when I retired from teaching. There were a lot of print publications. So there were a lot of places that needed ideas and information. I had a lot of ideas, things that interested me. So I followed my own interests and queried the various publications. It's a little harder now to find publications that want to pay rather than just have you blog for free. But there still are publications that will, pay you for your articles. And I have the pleasure of getting to meet people and doing interviews and research on subjects that interest me. So that's how I proceeded with this particular career.
Mike, can I ask you a quick question? And then I promise I'm going to let Jade and somebody else talk, because I am being the narcissist as I normally am. Although with the bad lighting, it looks like a really dark narcissist. Anyway, my question is, when you started writing, because you've written an anthology and an actual novel, what were your biggest challenges just jumping in from being like a doctor to going into the creative writing field? What were your biggest challenges?
Well, the easiest one is that I don't like to write. That was a pretty big challenge for me. I love to read, and I love to write. I like to tell stories. In addition to practice, I've also been a visiting professor at 2 of the universities in the Midwest, and everybody always likes particularly the practice stories and different things like that, the personal human interest stories. And so over the years, I've become an engaging storyteller. But taking an engaging story from an engaging storyteller and then putting it in print is a completely different animal altogether. And so I don't want to write in a way that overestimates people's interest. And so writing and making writing interesting was a challenge for me. And the novel that I wrote, which is kind of long, it's about 125,000 words, took me 3 years. The short stories, or the practice stories, I can write one of those in an evening, just because it's basically, it just comes out as a story, and then I have to go back and make it readable. So those were my challenges.
Okay.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Really. I know that you had a question before we started this, So,
you want to ask it now?
If you'd like to ask it now, you can.
Excuse me. You aren't supposed to include me in these conversations. I'm supposed to be a lurker.
I feel bad. I felt so bad.
No, as we say that wisdom is all around you. So literally, you can learn from anybody.
True.
Writer, non-writer, first writer, whatever. You can learn from anybody.
Well, I'm trying to learn, that's for sure.
So you had a question. Go ahead and shoot it off now if you'd like.
Me, you mean?
Yes.
Oh, well, I was asking Brandy. This is all relatively new for me, and they talk a lot about how you're supposed to widen your base, your interest base, and everything else, and how much self-promotion you're supposed to do if you self-publish. and how to create lists and how to write blogs. And I read blogs, and I got to tell you, those people way overestimate my interest. And and so I find those things duller than dirt. And I would not want to get into one of those things just so that I can get somebody to read my book. And so I was questioning, what the best way to go is, and on that, as a side note, particularly, can you do both, traditional publish, or can you like put your book on Amazon, and then if it's interesting, will a publisher pick it up? I don't know.
Yes, actually. Several of the traditionally published authors started off as self-published. And when publishers saw that there was a market for it and the book was proven, they went back and picked up the author. There are advantages to working with a traditional publisher that you don't have when you're self-publishing. Traditional publishers have a mile-long list of contacts. They've had the chance to develop over 125 years. These publishing companies have been around, which you and I obviously can't compete with that because we have a limited lifespan. So they've developed contacts. They can get you into areas and stores that you couldn't get into otherwise as easily. They know the trends and they have access to all the market data, so they can kind of guesstimate what's most likely to sell and what's not. And that's actually what drives their decision to buy these days.
Can I did you just take a breath, or were you still talking?
Oh no, you can go.
I took several breaths.
Oh, you're reading? Yes, me now, me.
I talk a lot, so if you want me to shut up, you're just gonna have to let me know.
No. I know that we have a small press. Ms. Booth, you have small press. You have a small press book with Crofton, the nonfiction book, and Ms. Merrill, you have a traditional publisher. So, did you guys want to?
And I have
traditional side.
Speak again.
Did you want to answer for the traditional sides, both like big press and small press?
Actually, I have done both self-publishing and traditional publishing. Traditional publishing has published for the market. I had a book I could not sell because they could not identify the genre, and it's important to know your genre and to know your space on the shelf so that they can sell you. You can't market what you can't name. So the straight Regency historical romances that I write for Harlequin, it's a specific thing they're looking for. That's what I give them. When I had things that were outside of that box, then it becomes more challenging. But if you've got a traditional publisher, you've got a contract, you've got guaranteed income because you have your advance and then you have your royalties. And so it's really, for me right now, that's the workhorse part of my finances. And the independent stuff is, I have to take all the risks. So traditional, if you can get there, it's fewer risks.
Ms. Booth, would you like to answer for small press?
Jan, yes.
Sorry, Jan.
Acadia Publishing, that published my book, has a very niche market, and I'm sure everyone listening has seen books on the bookshelves about small towns and mid-sized towns, and they're mostly images, pictures, historical pictures, and with some text explaining the pictures in context. So in my case, a friend was contacted by the publishing company and asked if she was interested in doing a book on Crofton, which is the subject of mine. She was not, but she kindly passed on the suggestion to me, and I contacted the publishers, and they have a very clear structure. They want to follow the number of pages, number of images, and so forth. So that was a big help to me, since obviously I hadn't done this before, and I learned a lot, and it was an interesting process of getting to know people and getting them to trust me, sort of a journalistic opportunity. So they could tell me about the images, the pictures, the little backstories, the anecdote, as Dr. Nelson spoke about. They're very popular.
Okay. Did that help at all, Mike?
I have taken several notes, as a matter of fact. So, you know, the point that I'm at right now was, to me, and the editors that I've sent the book to are constantly apologizing to me about, oh, you know, we think you should take this out, or you know, that sort of thing, and we apologize for being critical. And I keep telling them that it's the story that I'm interested in, not the words. And so you just go ahead and slash and burn if you need to. But then we get into this thing where we do self-promotion. And because I love the story, self-promotion sounds narcissistic to me. And so I am trying to get my hands around that, because the monetary end of it was not my motivation in the first place. So I'm learning.
Can we take the first half
I'm
of
gonna
that? Go ahead,
with,
G.
Yeah.
editing and Winona are not friends. They're not friends. Like, she would literally remembers just about every word an editor has said. And it's really kind of funny. I laugh at it all the time. But they are trying to make your book better, readable to everyone. And also with self-promotion, I mean, it is kind of narcissistic, but if you think about it, like, your book is your small business. How are you gonna know? How is anyone gonna know if you don't tell them? I mean, like, if you had a house cleaning business, but you only cleaned your own house, you know, like, that's not cool. Or, I mean, but if you had your friends over and look how good I cleaned my house because I have a business and I clean houses, and they have you, and then they tell somebody else, tell someone else, well, then that's great. And I know you wrote it just for your kids, but I'm telling you, your book sounds like it's gonna help a lot of people. So be out there, be proud. You wrote it. This is your baby. This is your business. This is what you've done to help people. And you just tell them, look, I wrote this book because post-traumatic stress syndrome is a thing, and people need to know about it. They need to know it's okay. It happens to everyone. And this is how you can get over it. And this is why I wrote this book. And so let people know it's okay.
I also wanted, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'd hate to write the greatest story nobody read.
Right.
I think we're all in that boat right now, especially. But I wanted to say, can you guys quickly tell us one of your editor horror stories for our published authors, self-published or whatever?
Whatever. You just want to have someone else have a bad story.
I do.
Well, I do editing, and the hardest thing to work with is somebody who's way too emotionally attached to their writing. Like, if you can't accept the fact that a rough draft is just that, it's rough. It's going to need polishing and cutting and a lot of work before it's really ready to put out there. You have to kind of detach yourself emotionally from what you've written and accept that that is just a starting point. And if you really want it to shine, you're going to have to let the jeweler cut it, polish it, and get rid of the flaws.
Christine or Jan?
My entire first revision letter would be the horror story, I think. Because I did not think anyone was actually going to read the manuscript, because every year I entered the contest and I would get a horrible score or more than one horrible scores, and then I would go in the bathroom and cry, and then I would enter the next year. So I assumed this is going to be another year crying in the bathroom, and I wrote as quickly as I could to make sure that I had an entire manuscript. I mean, it was a little bit short, so AdWords. Okay, this is definitely a full book. Sent it off, and then it won. And then the revision letter came, and you have to imagine everything coming in a very proper British voice, because it was Mills and Boon in London, where I hadn't thought to submit. One of the things was, do you know the difference between do and due? And I said, yeah, but I didn't proofread it, so I'll take care of that. And the other was, we don't mind various elements of sexuality, But generally, we do not wish to include any bestiality elements, so you might want to take that out. And I went, what? Because I knew I had, what I had done was on a Friday when I told myself I had a 10-page deadline, I'd written a scene about the hero's ex-wife, and that she had argued with him and accused him of everything up to buggering the farm animals. And I just sort of thrown that line in and got to my 10 pages and closed the computer and went on my way. And no, you want to be more careful about your choices of words sometimes.
Oh, I was so gonna say something right there, but I don't want to upset any of the UK viewers, so I'm gonna be quiet right there.
That is so, but it's so UK though. It's so UK.
I can assure you that I haven't put any buggering of farm animals.
Okay, you're off to a good start there. Good start.
Jan, did you want to share your story?
Well, also, I just wanted to suggest to Mike, you sort of covered this, but I have a friend who self-published 8 novels, sort of a series that begins around 1910 or so and proceeds on through most of the 20th century. And he has been very successful. He contacted one historical association in his area and spoke to them. And certainly, the Amish community story or Vietnam, both are subjects that historical groups would be interested in. So you might find lecturing, and since you've taught as a professor, you know how to use slides and so forth. He's been very well received, and his books, he sold a lot himself, just doing these lectures. So it's something you might consider.
I will.
I feel like we should answer something on the self-promotion question because I am the resident narcissist. Does anyone mind? No? Okay.
I'm kind of missing your hat today, to tell you the truth. This woman wears the most amazing hats.
She did have an amazing hat today. No hat today. But to answer that point about speaking, sometimes speaking really does help you sell your books because people are like, oh, they do know what they're talking about, so I'm not wasting my money. Okay, great. And then they give you the money. Exciting.
Also, from the self-promotion point, it's really important that you do that because most people, I don't know, maybe not Miss Merrill, but most people, they meet the author first, and for self-published people, and then they like the author or they like the author's story, and then they meet the book or read the book. And that's what we found in our case, hence why we have a brand and not just straight books. It's a lot of work.
Podcasts are very, very cool to do. They're very fun. So it's like video, but not. So that's our 2 cents, right?
Yeah, but we weren't here to really talk about anything that we do. So anyway, I do have a quick question for Brandy. Oh, Jay, did you have a question?
No.
A quick question for Brandy. So switching out from going from writing into other branches, how did you find that to be? I mean, what made you want to do that, and what were the challenges?
I'm not quite following the question. So.
Oh, you're doing a reality TV. You're doing a reality TV show.
Okay.
Not just writing.
Yeah. I'm working on that reality TV show in part because, well, here's the thing. Writers don't often see themselves this way, but as writers, you're stepping into a leadership position and you're becoming somebody who influences generations. And I really wanted, the American public has a fascination with writers, and I really kind of wanted to peel back the covers and show what happens on the other side of things, how you get from having a concept to having a customer, what that process is and what the challenges are, so that when writers step out, they don't just have a dream, they have a realistic expectation about how to fulfill that dream. Because I think that's something we do a grave disservice to kids in school, publishing becomes this black box where, you finish your manuscript, you send it off, and magically it becomes a book. But that's not really how it happens. So that was the goal with 40 Day Writer. And like I said, I'm still working on getting that concept up and running. but we're making baby steps in that direction. It feels like it's going to take forever. But yeah, I mean, that's the original concept came actually because I was looking for a way to finance a writer's retreat center. And I was thinking to myself, okay, well, what could you do to offer people? And I was like, well, what if I offered to bring them on a TV show? And then I was like, a TV show for writers? That would be really cool.
That works.
And then, yeah, so, and then I developed it from there. And so, yeah, that's kind of how my brain works.
Well, thank you.
And it
so
would be a
much
great
for your
tool
brain
for
working
helping
that
to
way.
promote their books as they're being written so that people know what's coming down the pipeline and are getting excited about it. Because Mike, you have a valid point. Self-promotion is actually something that most people are trained not to do. We're told not to brag on ourselves, that it's not modest, that it's not humble. But in reality, humility is not denying that you have a gift. It's acknowledging the source of the gift. So if that helps you, and I hope it does, it's okay to talk about your work. It's okay to let other people know that you have this available. What's important is to remember that you wouldn't have that available if you hadn't had all these experiences and support getting there. As long as you do that, you're not going to hurt your modesty. Your award will be in the mail.
You'd be surprised how many people have questioned my modesty.
Well, you know.
I believe I did that the first time we met. No, I'm joking.
No, she did not. Oh my goodness. She's
I'm
so,
so joking.
She's always too much.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I do have 2 questions. Jay, did you have anything?
Well, yes, because we're coming toward the end of our show. And
2.
so I want, no.
No,
we
these
could,
are 2
we could
important ones.
have fine.
Thank you.
One.
Okay, one important one with A and B then. Dang.
No,
Anyway.
not an A and B, just one.
But how? Okay, so with the United States and the American culture being the way it is today, where we're focused on like social media, we're focused on television, we're focused on even radio before we pick up a book. How do you see the author, the journalist, fitting into the 21st century?
Well, speaking for journalism, it seems to me that the process has already begun. A journalist such as myself can provide background, historical setting, give some depth to the constant flow of information that people get through various sources that are news or not news. And hopefully, a good journalist will give enough background information so that the reader or the viewer can more wisely evaluate what they hear and what they read and make some decisions for themselves.
Anyone else?
Anyone?
Like I said, I drove all night to get up to Minneapolis, and I got in about 2 a.m. I brought my 16-year-old daughter with me on the ride, and we had this discussion last night while we were going along, and I asked her, I said, what do you think? Everything is about Kindles and iPads and all of that stuff. And she said, well, I do some reading on Kindle, but in order to feel comfortable and in order to enjoy what I do, I need to read a book. And so we were talking about that. And one of the things that came out in that conversation was, unless you have something that is written, unless you have a book, even if it's electronic or even if it's a thing, the thing that the author does, the thing that they provide is perspective into what you observe every day. And so it creates a 3-dimensional experience for your own life. And so that seems to me what journalism and literature is all about, is helping us to understand what goes on around us without just being this single-dimensional things that we observe with our own eyes.
Right. Every book you read expands your perspective on what's what somebody else might be going through, and therefore is beneficial because it provides you a different way of looking at the world.
Which we could use more of in our U.S. government system right now.
Yeah.
Well, we could use more all over, honestly. People are becoming, I think part of the thing is they're not reading as much. And because of that, they're not getting that broadening of perspective that comes. So I think we really do need to get back to having more people reading.
Yes, reading used to be entertainment and educational. And because of the electronics these days, it has become easier to be amused than it has to be educated.
Miss Merrill, our best-selling author, would you like to say anything about that?
Mostly, I would say writers, storytellers, we're like cockroaches. We are always going to be here. I mean, we were there around we were there in the caves. We were there.
Great.
And we're going to be there if we go back to Caves of Fire. People always are looking for somebody who can put their life in perspective and who can entertain them with the same themes, because really stories haven't changed that much over the year. They're about people and what people do, adventures, emotion. The core elements don't change, and people will always want them.
I want to say,
even the digital stuff is usually based on something that's been written in print. You know, television shows, radio, podcasts, videos, they're usually based on something written in print first.
Absolutely.
I want to say, Ms. Merrill and Brandy and Jan, thank you guys so much for making, and Mike, of course, yes.
Wow, you're just forgetting people.
No, I was going to say, like, I really appreciated, like, your words on, like, where we will be in the 21st century, because as a self-published author and constantly trying to be mobile and moving so we can, you know, get our brand more out there widely, you start to think that the written word, the book, might not be the best way to go, but to remind us that, you know, the written word is where it all started anyway. It kind of brings you back and gives you some security almost that you'll be okay. Even if you don't have everything, the written word is good enough.
The written word will survive changes in media. I mean, we're still reading books from over 2,000 years ago and over 3,000 years ago. We know about Atlantis because Plato wrote about it 300 years before Christ was born. So don't underestimate the power of the written word. It will long outlast television, podcasts, and everything else we do.
I'm loving the smiles I'm seeing here. Everyone's like, yes. Okay,
so I have one last question. Any words of wisdom that you give to anyone out here aspiring to write a book? I haven't had any coffee today. I haven't had any. So
to borrow a phrase from Nike, just do it. Just do it.
You'll feel better. Do it, you'll feel better.
Anybody else?
If you never even publish it, just knowing that you can will empower you to do so much more.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. It is an enormous feeling of accomplishment. It's almost cathartic when you write.
Very definitely.
Merrill or Booth? Jan or Christine?
Very much agree with that. I mean, you're going to feel better afterwards. It's, you know, it's like going to the dentist, only you get a book at the end. Once you get that story out.
I'm still struggling with the concept of being a cockroach.
Hey, you know, those things are sturdy.
Yeah.
But
take a look and keep on ticking.
I don't know whether or not now if somebody turns onto a light, do I have to run for it? Or
Well, in your case, you better hope they turn on a light. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to read.
I'm sorry, Miss Merrill, you were saying, wait.
Oh, I can't remember what.
Jan?
Go ahead. If you have a book, you get it out, get it on paper. You'll feel better for it.
And let it be awful. Let your first one be awful. Don't hold yourself to a high standard and expect it to be publishable content. Just get it out.
Right.
Jan, Because you've been so quiet down there. You've
Well,
been so
since
quiet.
I write shorter pieces, I would just say for those interested in being journalists, just send your ideas out. Be sure you do an outline. Make that query interesting. All the things you've heard about query letters apply, and try that first one. But keep in mind the audience that you anticipate will be reading the piece. If the editors are thinking of that first, they want to make a living and have lots of readers. And so do you want lots of readers.
So where can we find everyone? I know that Mr. Mike, my work. You should just take names from now on.
I was about to
Yeah,
take
go
it.
for it. Go for it. No.
Where can we find everyone? We are going to start how we began. So, Brandy.
I have a website. It's 40daywriter.com. 40day, D-A-Y, writer, just like WRITER.com. And if you want to email me, it's Brandy with a Y at 40daywriter.com. So.
Awesome.
Christine, on Twitter, I am double_cheese, so double cheese. My website is Christine-Merrill.com. That's Christine with a CH and Merrill, MERRILL, like Merrill Lynch. Christine Merrill Books on Facebook, and books all over Amazon.
Nice. By the way, you guys, if you stop by her website, you will get addicted to her books. It's just like something that happens. It's highly upsetting, but you have to read them all.
Which one has the farm animal thing in it?
No. So all farm animals removed. No animals were hurt in the no animals were harmed in the making of these books.
Jan, lastly.
I have a blog, much to Mike's dismay, I'm sure.
No.
Open-lines at open-lines.org. I think that's it.
Well done.
Jay, would you care to wrap us all up? Oh, first of all, thank you guys so much for being here. Jay.
Like, I mean, I know that you haven't finished your books yet, so if you have something you want people to contact you with, that's cool. If not, then look out for his books, and we will totally be shouting them out when they come out.
Thank you.
All right. So I just wanted to say, you guys, I mean, as we learned from this wonderful panel today, always, that wisdom is all around. Oh,
I don't get to show the books again.
Here we go. So listen, we are the And I Thought ladies. We do the And I Thought series, and with 12 other wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous, just add to your life, ladies.
Love the adjectives, by the way.
and I thought divorce was bad with other life lessons, and I thought being grown up was easy, and I thought I could juggle it all, and I thought I did my journey alone, out of style, and I thought I had it all figured out in Fiction episode 1. And just remember that, you guys, wisdom is all around you if
you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from Winona
and Jade.
By the way, I have both of my nails this week.
And probably all of our guests.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And thank everyone.